Happy Monday. Bitcoin is trading at $112,000. I still believe there's a very high chance the Bitcoin top is in at 124,000. In this video, I want to show you the charts. I want to show you the data, levels I'm watching, my opinion on what we can expect, and maybe whether or not we still get an alt season, fingers crossed, where we see at least a couple of weeks of hopefully like Dogecoin and some other alts do maybe a 2x or a 3x or a 4x before the cycle is completely over. So let's dive straight in. Let me share with you what I'm seeing. By the way, if you need a place to trade, BLOFIN Exchange is where I personally trade. I have a great relationship with them, which means I can offer fantastic bonuses, giveaways, cashback campaigns on trading volume every single month for my referrals. So if you haven't checked it out, create a free account, use my link in the description down below. We do up to 9,400 USDT cashback every single month for all of our referrals on their trading volume. It's obviously based on hitting certain requirements, but all of that is available. The details are down below. Now let's start out by saying the Bitcoin price after the halvings, the maximum cycle length of Bitcoin has been 550 days. We are currently 506 days. So we have 44 days left until we reach the same maximum length in time of any previous Bitcoin bull after the halving. And again, there's no guarantee that we need to reach that same amount. It could stop at any point before then. Now, of course, this time could be different, right? Maybe it is, but that only becomes, we only get the confirmation of that after 550 days. If this continues going higher beyond that point, well, then we have to consider the fact that that time may be different, and then we reassess and look at the charts and the possibilities. But until that happens, in my opinion, I don't think this time is different, and we have to assume that we have less than or a maximum of 44 days for Bitcoin to still do something, and for altcoins to potentially have a bigger exit pump. So basically by the end of October, mid to end October, that's our window, which is the end of next month. So if nothing happens by then, well, then it becomes more and more likely that the cycle is over. And it was probably the worst cycle for retail investors since altcoins have been very, very difficult to navigate over this entire cycle. So bringing out the weekly chart of Bitcoin, we have had the weekly close. It was slightly green, and you can see we're moving a little bit higher. But what I want to point out here first is these vertical lines. So we have the halving over here, and we have the halving in 2024 over here. So this was the maximum cycle length. This distance over here, that was 550 days. 550 days from this previous halving is right over here towards the end of October, which is what I was just saying. So we can see in the previous cycle, we got the top. We also had a weekly RSI bear divergence. You can see over here very clearly leading into that marked the top at 550 days. And then we got that brutal bear market. We're having the same thing now where we actually have 3 thrusts as a negative RSI divergence here on the weekly. We're heading into that timing. So we have about 5 to 6 weeks left before we hit that maximum cycle length timing. And then we're there. So that's why I'm saying I think the top is in based on obviously the RSI divergence, the cycle length, also on lower time frames, the wick sweep, where I think this over here looks very similar to this over here. And that doesn't mean we can't see a little bit of a retracement back up. Actually, in fact, a lot of the time what happens is that we will see a retest of the Fibonacci golden pocket before continuing lower. So that means that we could see even up to as high as 120,000 in the next few weeks still. So something like this before the next bear market starts, if this all plays out in the same way. I will show you this in a second on the lower time frames. And that would actually probably lead to what we're looking for is a rotation into altcoins and hopefully a pump of Dogecoin and other alts where we see a 2x or a 3x or maybe even a 4 or 5x in a few weeks time, just like it's done in the past, for a complete cycle top and then game over. As long as Bitcoin can kind of range, even better if it grinds up a little bit, 114, 117, 119, alts get their final extra pump and then the whole thing is done somewhere probably by the end of October, maybe early November, as every single cycle has been so far. So what I'm talking about now, what is a possibility, is that you can see we're starting to move a little bit higher from these lows. This is a Fibonacci golden pocket. It's the 61.8 to 65%, even the 0.70% retracement. So what we often do see is, especially after we've had a market structure break. So we've been making higher highs and higher lows, and at this point in time, we made a lower low right over here. Okay, so the market structure, the bullish market structure has been broken. We are now at a lower low, and after that, what we do often see is a move back up to make a lower high. This usually stalls right about over here, sometimes a little bit before it, depending on how strong the bulls are, how strong the bears are. But usually this happens quite a bit, regardless of the chart and the time frame, just this type of pattern. So we make a lower low, then we move up to here, and this is where everyone just thinks, oh, this was just a dip, we're continuing higher, and then it tops here, and then it continues all the way back down. And this would line up perfectly with what I'm saying, the end of the cycle, top 550 days, approximately somewhere mid to end October. And this, probably this move in this little range around here, would probably allow, or hopefully allow, for an altcoin pump, where the money rotates into Dogecoin and other alts, and we finally see our exit pump. I think if we do get that, it's going to be very short-lived, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks at most. Everything can pump very quickly, and then when it's done, it's all going to come all the way back down, and we go into a bear market for 2026. Now, all of this obviously only really matters if you are holding spot, especially if you're holding spot altcoins, and if you are looking to exit near the cycle top. If you only hold Bitcoin and you're planning to just never sell and only add to your Bitcoin holdings if it drops, well, then none of this matters, because you're not going to sell anyway, regardless if it drops 80% or not, right? But for the people who are invested, especially into altcoins, because altcoins get completely wrecked in a bear market, when the pump comes, if it comes, you need to remove initial and you need to get out, because just as much as we saw it in the previous cycle, Dogecoin went from 7 cents to 73 cents in a matter of 5 weeks at the end of last cycle, and then it came all the way back down to 5 cents again. So it's a complete pump and complete retrace, and this will happen to the majority of altcoins if we even do get that pump. So that's important to be aware of, so that you do have a plan to get out of those altcoins especially. And then of course, if you're a trader and you want to do this on leverage, you want to long and you want to short, all of that, of course, if you know what you're doing, then this volatility can be very, very interesting, and obviously there's a lot to be made. But let me just share this with you from a technical perspective. So if we do get something like this, this area, this level will be something to watch between 118,000 and 120,000. If it rejects there, and we'll be looking on the lower time frame, it might be a lower high, and this scenario might play out, and we might be looking at the bear market after that. Now, of course, it's always if, then, based on probabilities, we never know for sure. So if somehow this gets flipped and we get above 120, well, then we have to consider the fact that it might actually take out the high. But I don't think that is the most likely scenario at this point. I am looking more towards the lower high and then down if we even get that high. So that's my plan, and I will adjust obviously accordingly to the price action as it develops. But for now, I do think we can go as high as maybe 120,000 in the next few weeks. And if that happens, I think that would be the best case scenario for the altcoins, to let them have a pump. And then hopefully the altcoins, well, they move higher, we cash out the spot, and then short it all the way down in the next bear market. That is the plan. If we're looking at Ethereum on the weekly, it had a red close, so maybe a little bit more bearish. It really depends here what's happening. There's a lot of whale games being played, a lot of buying, a lot of selling. And I do think if Bitcoin does have a bit of a run to 120, we might still see one more move up to new highs with Ethereum to properly sweep this range. So somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 is a possibility. That can happen very, very quickly. So a big move up. And then if this does that, it gets above the range and it drops back in. That's probably the signal for a top being in. And then in the next bear market, we might actually hit the 2022 lows, which is below $1,000, which would be obviously a crazy, crazy move. And in that case, obviously, we would want to offload spot and probably short this on the way down. Obviously, depending on your own strategy, whatever you want to do. But I'm just sharing this kind of setup. This is something that I'm looking for here. Potentially, if we get this deviation, 5,000 to 6,000, and then back into the range below this previous all-time high, that is the trigger for the short. Something like that would be the case, and then maybe only mid-range, maybe back to 2,800, but maybe in the next bear market all the way back down to below $1,000. And then finally, let's take a look at Dogecoin, because it's simply the leader of the altcoins, I would say, and it's the one worth paying attention to, because in the previous cycle it marked the top of the cycle when it had a crazy pump, and I think it's likely to do it again if we have an altcoin season or some sort of altcoin exit pump. Hopefully we could see Doge hit $1. I don't know if that's possible. It's only a 4x at this point, and you've seen Ethereum, they pushed it at 3x. It's the second biggest market cap. Doge is a smaller market cap than Ethereum. So if the rotation really happens and the whales want to make it happen, maybe Elon starts to tweet something, maybe it gets added to Twitter, maybe a Doge ETF gets approved, whatever happens, whatever is the catalyst, it is a possibility. And then we could see this really move a lot higher in a short period of time. I'm talking about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. You can see even here in this current cycle, in a matter of like 4 or 5 weeks, it went from 14 cents to like 48 cents. So that's what I'm looking for, a big move up in a short period of time to mark the top of the altcoin bull market cycle top, and then all the way back down again in the bear market. So whenever this happens, I will try and update in real time. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel here. Of course, I'll share it inside my VIP Discord in real time. I do that every single day there. And that will be the one. If it happens, that at least you're aware of potentially that being the final exit pump, and to have an idea or a strategy. When are you going to remove your initial? When are you going to take profits? Because every single time, every single alt season, after the pump, the entire pump gets completely retraced, and it's like this for probably like 99% of all the altcoins out there, maybe even more than that. So the entire pump of the bull market, while it's absolutely fantastic and euphoric, it's the last pump, and it comes all the way back down in the bear market. So you can completely round trip, and if you bought the top or you leveraged up or you didn't take profits, you will get wrecked once again and end up with zero or less than what you started with, even if you don't manage this properly. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Either way, like I said, for trading, it doesn't matter whatever happens, bear or bull. In the bear market, if we get a year bear market in 2026, I'm going to be shorting it. We're going to be looking at shorting every single fake scam pump and all these garbage coins and all these scam coins, because there's just as much money to be made in a bear market shorting it as there is in a bull market longing it. And then, of course, the only caveat is that when we have a bear market, well, you can't be overexposed to spot, and definitely I don't want to be holding any altcoins in a bear market because they will all get wrecked. Smash the like button. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you need a place to trade and you haven't made an account on BLOFIN yet, use my link in the description down below for massive cashback campaigns on trading volume, iPhone giveaways, and other bonuses every single month that I do for my referrals. I personally trade there. I think it's a great exchange. So check it out. Link in the description down below.